Hello, 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 Mosaic Souls. Hey, Mosaic Souls, this is Rachael Alexander, artist and Mosaic Soul mentor, aka spiritual life, wellness, and business coach here at Divine Earth School. And I'm super excited to come to you today to talk all about the 3 spiritual principles to allow more of what you desire in 2024 and beyond. Really, I don't do years and times, but since we're coming upon the new year, I wanted to bring this information to you today. Bear with me a second as I make sure that I can be heard and seen. If you're joining me live, feel free to say hi in the chat. I know I came on here impromptu, but I wanted to, I wanted to share this information because it was a divine download that I had this morning in my meditation. Okay, cool. So, I wanted to share this information because I was doing a meditation this morning, and I always start my day with self-reflection, and this just started downloading into my brain. I was like, ooh, I have to do a live on this one. This is juicy. This topic is so juicy. But it's really a culmination of everything that I talk about on this channel, to be honest. But I wanted to share just 3 spiritual principles that you can take with you as you move into this new year for yourself and to help you create more of the life that you want, right? So if you're looking to, allow more of what you desire, and allow is very different than, force what you desire. It's very different energy. If you're looking to allow more of what you desire, then this message is for you. So let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. And the first one, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my phone because I wrote it on my phone. The first principle is really just to know thyself, right? Remember who you are. You might have heard me say this many times on this channel, but the reason why this is a principle is one of the reasons, especially if you're watching any form of my channel, any of my videos, you might resonate with this, but the whole journey that we came here on the planet to have was to remember who we truly are. And we came on this planet, in this game, in this flesh suit, to play this game called humanity, to actualize ourselves in these individuated expressions, and to manifest and to create lives and to feel, you can give it whatever meaning you want to give it, but to feel, what it would feel like to be individuated and to feel like the presence of our own source and our own divinity within these different human forms, right? So knowing yourself is really all about that. So when you know who you are, your come from is a lot different from when you don't. So someone who knows that they are an infinite being with the power to create the life they desire operates completely different from a person who believes that they are just a human at the mercy to the life circumstances and situations happening to them. So one version, the person who believes that they're just human and at the mercy of life circumstances and situations happening to them, is from a victim consciousness, and the other one is from freedom consciousness, right? So you get to decide and choose which version of yourself you prefer to experience. So you are worthy, you are deserving, you are enough, you are capable. And your job is to know this, to truly know it so deeply that it's at the very core of your being, the very core essence of how you lead your life every day. You're at the very cells where you just know that you know who you are, and you feel infallible, you feel invincible, that knowing, right? So that's principle number 1. And I might circle back to some of these principles because as I was receiving it, it was sort of like an energetic thing that was happening for me, and it was just like, this stuff is so deep. But translating it into words sometimes feels completely different. But when you know who you truly are, the whole point of principle 1 is your come from is different. The way you approach your life is different, right? And I'll talk about the 3 spiritual principles, these 3 spiritual principles, and then I'll also talk about how to implement these 3 spiritual principles in your life. So let me go through the first 3 spiritual principles. The first one is to know thyself, to remember who you are. Welcome. Feel free to say hi in the chat if you're joining me live. The second one is to accept yourself, right? So first one, know yourself. Second one, accept yourself, right? So doubt, fear, scarcity thinking show up as a way to let you know that your vibrational point of attraction is out of alignment with that of what your soul sees. That of how your soul sees things. I wrote hope is how. That of how your soul sees things, right? So when you're experiencing these distant vibrations and stuff like that, these are signals, right, to let you know that your perspective is out of alignment with with the perspective of source, with the perspective of your higher self, with the perspective of your soul, whatever word resonates, God, the divine, is different, right? So these are opportunities to come into alignment with your higher self and transform your inner world such that your outer world becomes a match. So yeah, that's interesting. And so thank your emotional guidance system for always working and denser vibrations, for letting you know that you have room in areas in your life for more growth and expansion, right? So that's principle number 2, really, is to accept yourself, right? And it's I'm not akinning it to like ancient principles and stuff, because it's all connected, right? Everything is connected. But I'm really the queen of simplicity, so I like to speak things in like plain English language so people can understand these principles, because everything is a vibrational understanding, and when you get things at a vibrational level, it locks into your body, and then you can start understanding this at a deeper level. And so principle number 2 is to accept yourself. Principle number 3 is to actualize yourself, right? So master your meaning. This is how you start to become self-actualized. Master the meaning that you give things. So the stories you tell yourself and others on a day-to-day basis is a story you are literally writing out about your life, right? So start telling stories that you want to be true, rather than stories that you feel, aren't in alignment with who you want to be, right? And so we'll get into that when I start talking about how to actually implement these 3 principles. So 3 principles, recap. Know thyself. Remember who you are. Principle number 2, accept yourself. Remember that all aspects of your emotional guidance system, the denser emotional frequencies, your negative thought patterns, your negative behaviors are all there as signals to let you know, oh, I have some room for growth and expansion in this area. And when you accept that, you can start to move and shift and change, right? And then the 3rd principle is to actualize yourself, master the meanings and the stories that you're giving life events and life situations, right? So let's go into how to actually implement these 3 spiritual principles into your life, right? So the past and the future, to me, the past and the future do not exist outside of the present moment. So if you think of your mind and your thoughts, you think of the past as sort of memories from a different version of you, a previous version of you that doesn't really exist in this now moment, other than you perpetuating those memories and telling those same stories over and over and over again. You see what I'm saying? So the past exists as memories, right? The future exists as projections of the mind, right? But we never really truly experience time outside of this present moment, right? So if you think of that and you start to collapse time, if you think of quantum physics, everything is always happening in the present moment, in the eternal now. So whether you're, visualizing and, projecting a different version of your future, you're projecting it in this now moment, right? If you're remembering and recalling things from your past, you're remembering memories or bringing up memories in this present moment. All that is to say, on an energetic level, is that sometimes we get caught in this time warp of, I gotta make things happen, I gotta, or, and the thing about all of this is all of these 3 spiritual principles is helping you to get back to who you truly are, which is why it's, principle number 1 is to know thyself, right? So when you know yourself and you start moving into that, all of it is to get back to the wholeness of who you truly are. So time collapsing and being in this present moment means that you have access to who you want to be in this now moment. You have access to the emotions, the memories. You can create memories of your future self, right? the projections, the thought forms of your future self in this present moment, right? And that's the power of recognizing who you truly are, right? So operating from the present moment and inner knowing of who you are is more powerful than taking a bunch of action out of victim fear-based consciousness. And I'll link a video below this one where I talk about your come from, like taking the power of intuitive action, the power of right action. So check out that video where I kind of talk about that. But let's talk about how to implement these 3 spiritual principles. I just wanted to make that sort of like the basis of how I'm moving through the rest of this content. So step number 1, I wrote 4 steps to help you start to implement these spiritual principles in your life. Is to discover who you are, right? And develop a belief system around that supports who you want to be on the planet. So here you want to start thinking about what beliefs were you taught about the truth of who you are. Like when you were little, you know, whether you come from a Christian background or where you come from whatever, it doesn't matter, you know, but you want to start looking at these beliefs and what do you believe about yourself, right? Your place in the universe, your reason for existing, right? And what do you know to be true, right? And contemplate these things, for they form the basis of your reality, right? So if these beliefs contradict your heart's desires, it's time to reevaluate and shift, right? So let's say you have a love example is coming up to my mind. Let's say you have a desire for a new partner in 2024, right? And so for this new partner, maybe you don't believe maybe you don't have a healthy blueprint from your past, or, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better example. Hold on. Yeah, so when someone believes that, you know, has a belief system that doesn't support who they want to be in order to attract a certain type of partner or whatever, what happens is they end up creating more of the same energy of not attracting the right person, the right people in their lives. And this kind of reminds me of a client that I spoke with, a potential client rather, that I spoke with like a week ago. And this person was complaining, well, not complaining, but just sort of like, you know, telling about their gripes around not being able to find the right partner for that person. And they kept finding certain types of people who embodied and exuded this type of energy and that wanted this certain type of things from them. And hello, welcome, Miss AT. Welcome. Mr. or Mrs. I don't know if you're he or her or they. But yes, so that person was sort of griping about them not being able to attract a certain thing. And I was like, well, one of the things you want to first do is shift your mindset around that. You clearly have a certain blueprint that's playing out in your life. If you've gone on, this person like went on 13 dates. I was like, well, if you've gone on that many dates and every single one of those people that you hung out with or like went out on a date with is exuding the same energy, then the person that you have to look at the end of the day is a person staring back at you in the mirror, right? So what are your beliefs around, you know, what you're creating? Because you're attracting this type of person and that's creating the same thing over and over and over and over. Let me see what you're saying. I will never be enough and I will always be alone are the ones I've been working on, that even with the reframing sit in the back of my mind. Right. Yeah. And we'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about that. That's a good one. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So understanding like your belief systems and where they are. Another thing is like, if you believe, one of the main things that I want to talk about is discovering who you are. If you believe that you're just sort of a human, not to say that there's no right or wrong, but you just look and evaluate your beliefs, right? If your belief system, if you grew up thinking that, you know, just from the Christian example, because I used to be a Christian growing up, I was born and raised in the Christian faith. But if you're raised in this belief system where you think that, you know, you're this mere little human, you don't have powers, you have to rely on this outside entity to determine your fate and your reality and existence, and if you do bad things, he or she will smite you, or all this kind of stuff, like that blueprint of belief system might not be in service of you being the version of you that knows that you're a divine creator of your reality and that you have creative powers and that you have the power to create your life, right? So one belief system, not to say, not, you know, crapping on anybody's belief system, but you just want to start to reevaluate what beliefs make up who you are in this moment and do they support who you want to be on the planet, right? And so that's really about it. And when you start to believe that you live in a universe that is a friendly universe, that you can create your own reality, that, you know, that what you put out is what you get back, those types of belief systems support your creative power versus believing that you're a victim, bad things happen to you, just bad shit happens, that's just how life is. That's a different belief system that supports a different version of you. You see what I'm saying? So that's the whole caveat. Discover who you are and develop a belief system around that supports who you want to be, right? Step number 2 is to recognize your inner thoughts, feelings, and I'm going to come back to you, Miss Sati, Mr. or Mrs. Sati there. But this really goes on to what you're talking about, is recognize your inner thoughts, feelings, and emotions on a daily basis. Here you want to start to become a vibrational detective in the sense that you don't allow denser thoughts, feelings, or emotions to just set up camp in your consciousness and the way you interact with the world without careful examination or transformation. So here, you want to just start to become sort of like a vibrational snob or a vibrational detective, right, of your inner world on a day-to-day basis. What are you thinking, feeling, and how are you emoting and behaving on a day-to-day basis? Are your actions in alignment with the version of yourself that you desire to be, right? So, for example, if you want to get healthy and lose weight, but you have thoughts that it's so hard to do and you never seem to get to keep the weight off, then those thoughts and feelings are keeping you in that vibrational reality of being overweight, right? And once you start to face these emotions or thought forms and things that don't support the version of you that you want to be, then you can start to transmute and heal these beliefs, thought forms, and energies. So you can start to face them and transmute them, and you can start to allow that healthier, thinner version of you to start rolling in. So learning self-regulation and emotional and mental regulation is the key here, right? So when you become sort of a vibrational police or vibrational detective of what's going on within you on a day-to-day basis, not, oh, I sit down and this is great, do this, but I sit down for 15 minutes in the morning to have my meditation to calm my mind, but the other 16 hours of the day I'm in lack, scarcity, and fear. I'm yelling at people, or I'm doubting myself, or I'm fill in the blank, right? So you want to start aligning how you think, feel, and act on a day-to-day basis throughout your day. You want to start realigning and adjusting yourself, self-regulating. Yes, we react. I'm not saying not to react, but I start to become aware of not staying stuck in a certain vibrational energy, right? Someone pisses you off or disrespects you, it's totally fine to react, but then how long are you going to stay in that reaction, right? Are you going to make that turn into days and weeks and months on end, right? But until it becomes a part of your personality. So you want to start self-regulating yourself and becoming the version of yourself such that it's in alignment with who you desire to be, right? And this kind of comes back to what Miss Sati was sharing, which is they say, I will never be enough, I will always be alone, are thought forms, right? Just sort of like belief systems, right? That they're knowing within themselves, right? To know that that's sort of something that's nagging in the back of your mind. And when that comes up, it's like, oh, okay, it's here for me to look at. It's here for me to examine. It's here for me to start to shift in belief, right? So when those thought forms are like, let's say you have a desire to, get a raise at your job or to get a better job or something like that, right? But, there might be thought forms that don't, I'm not enough, or I'm not capable, or I don't know enough, or whatever starts coming up. You can start to notice, oh, okay, these are some thought forms that are out of alignment with the version of me that already has that better paying job or that better suited job or whatever, right? So you start noticing these thought forms and you're like, oh, okay. It's not to negate them, because your emotional guidance system and these beliefs are showing up. Like when they show up, thank them, because without it raising to your conscious mind, you can't really shift them or change them, right? So it's sort of like, what's it called? Competence. Conscious competence or whatever. I can't remember. There's like this unconscious competence, unconscious incompetence, conscious competence, or something like that. And so the whole idea of this is just basically you can't change what you don't know needs to be shifted, right? So when these thought forms and energy and like thought forms and emotions and start to arise, thank them because they're there for you to examine. And if you're willing to take the time and look, if you're willing to take the time to face these emotions, do the energy healing around them, to start to transmute them, to reclaim different aspects of yourself, such that you can transmute these aspects of yourself into sort of alchemizing these energies and transmuting that anger, guilt and shame into joy, abundance, peace, bliss, start transmuting these energies. You have that power to do that as a divine being, right? Then you start to create come from energy. That come from that I talked about in principle 1 starts to come from a different energy altogether, right? So step number 1 is to discover who you are and develop a belief system around that supports who you want to be. Step number 2 is to become a vibrational detective of your inner world and start to learn how to self-regulate your emotions and your mental and your emotional self, right? Step number 3 is to release attachment to how you think your manifestations should come to you, right? So it's perfectly fine to have goals and intentions, but when you harp on how they should manifest, you don't allow your intuition and inner guidance to operate fully and shut down the infinite possibilities that are always available. Intuitive living is about allowing what already wants to happen through you to happen, right? I'm going to repeat that. Intuitive living is about allowing what already wants to happen through you to happen. If you think of yourself as an acorn that is destined to be an oak tree, you'll see that within you is already a blueprint. Let me go back. If you think of yourself as an acorn that is destined to be an oak tree, you'll see that within you is already a blueprint for success, love, joy, abundance, and well-being that already exist, right? Sorry, lost my place. Okay. And the only thing that is preventing you from allowing all that you desire into your life is your inner and outer world, your thoughts, feelings, emotions, behaviors, and actions, right? Not being in alignment with your innate blueprint. So I like to think of this as when I work with my clients and when I work with people in general, or I'm, supporting friends and stuff to help them create the life they want, right? I already see them as successful, right? Like one of the gifts I've always had was I've always known, ever since I was little, I was always here to support people to become the version of themselves that they want to be, right? I've always been that little girl who's like, so what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like that was always me. I'm like, oh, so how do you plan on doing that? Like, what are your thoughts about that? So one of my gifts personally is I've always been able to hold a vision of my friend or family, or in this case, client, that they might not see for themselves just yet, right? So I want you, in this case, I invite you to start to see yourself in that same way, that you are already inevitably successful. Like your ability to success is already written in your DNA, period, right? Like whatever success looks like for you, well-being is already written in your DNA, period. Abundance is already written in your DNA, period, point blank, right? So when you start to look at yourself in that way, you no longer feel like a victim, right? You can start to see, oh, success is already in my DNA. So I don't really have to work hard to get where I want, or I don't really have to try to, what am I trying to say? I don't have to become, this version of myself that doesn't align with who I desire to be. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we're given these sort of blueprints of what success looks like, and it usually comes from hard work and hustle culture and, never stop until you get there, and all that energy, and that's a totally fine way of existing, that playground. But most of us, if you're on this channel, you're a spiritual being, and you know that life don't gotta be that hard, you know what I mean? Actualizing yourself, creating your desires, manifesting what you desire. Yes, it takes some effort. Yes, it takes you to get out of your comfort zone. Yes, it takes you to do some work on your inner world. But all that is quite a lot simpler than a lot of the effort, based hard work, beat yourself into exhaustion, develop all types of diseases and kind of stuff, energy that we're brought up in, right? So it's just a different energy. And so this step is all about recognizing that if your success is inevitable, right? If your well-being is inevitable, if your happiness, if your joy is inevitable, then what is preventing that acorn from becoming an oak tree, right? It's usually a combination of your inner world not being in alignment with your outer world, right? It's a combination of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, behaviors, and actions being out of alignment with what you want to create, right? So this is all about releasing attachment to the how, right? And setting that attention, aligning yourself to it. And when I talk about align, it just means feeling what it would feel like to already have what you desire, right? There's power in, there's this neuroscience. This is the heart coherence, mind coherence. When everything is in alignment, you're creating that electromagnetic pulse into the universe. And so the universe is then going to vibrate back to you the same energy. But the key is starting to sustainably exist as this new version of yourself, right? You can meditate until you're blue in the face for 15, 20 minutes, an hour a day. But if the whole 16 other hours that you're awake, you're not in alignment, you're not in this vibrational state of it's already done in regards to your desire, you're not going to manifest what you desire because there's a mismatch in energy, right? You're aligned for 1 hour of day while the rest of your day you're out of alignment, right? So you want to start to slowly bring back all of your consciousness, all of your energy, all of your thought forms, your emotions, and how you act and think to be, like I said I think my last live, I talked about this. You have to become a different version of you. You can't create the life you desire being the same version of you right now that's creating your old reality. You see what I'm saying? So, step number 3 is releasing attachment to how you think your manifestation should come to you. Once you align to who you desire to be, like on an energetic level, leave it up to your higher self, right? Take actions, make a plan. If you received a divine download, like I received the divine download to do this video, and here I am doing the video, I'm taking this action. Me doing this right now is very effortless for me because I didn't really have to think, like this all came as like a divine download. If you see my phone right now, it's like this, it's a lot of like text that just came right down, right? But like a lot of times we think, oh, the action is going to be hard. No, the action is just like when you're in intuitive living, when you're following your heart, your soul, the intuition, the intuitive stuff just comes, it flows. You don't have to really pre-contemplate a lot of it, right? It just comes, right? It flows. But if you're not in alignment with yourself and you're constantly in resistance to this present moment, in resistance to your higher self, in resistance to your inner guidance, then you're not going to be able to start taking action from that right place, right? And you're going to be very insistent on how it should come to you, right? So if you want to create, like going back to that higher paying job, and you're like, okay, when I want to create like $25,000 more in my yearly whatever salary, right? You're going to be like, okay, well, in order to do that, then I can only get these types of jobs. And you're going to be very insistent on it showing up in that particular way. But the universe, your higher self, has many infinite ways that you can manifest that reality, right? You can end up, whatever. There's so many different ways. I don't even want to go into the list of ways that can flow. But if you become insistent and then like all your effort is energies in this one particular way, you shut off the infinite possibilities that are available to you to allow that to flow, right? So step number 3 is just really releasing attachment to the how in which your manifestations flow. And then also to recognize that your success, your love, your joy, your abundance, and your well-being is inevitable because it's already written in your DNA. It's already a part of your innate blueprint. Your job is just to remove all the muck, the stuff that's been covering up the blueprint so that you can start living out the blueprint, right? So that's step number 3. Step number 4 is to act in accordance with who you know you truly are. So I've already kind of mentioned this in the other steps, but it's not really acting as much as it's embodying who you are. You might hear like in the spiritual community or new age people who talk about act as if. I don't really believe in acting as if, because acting as if to me means it hasn't become a knowing. And the way that things become a knowing is it's really an iterative process in that you have to sit down and do the work. You have to be willing to face your inner demons, if you will, your shadows, right? Your shadow self, and doing that inner work to overcome these aspects of yourself that isn't in alignment with the version of yourself that you want to experience, right? So embodiment is very different from acting as if. You can act as if until it starts to shift into that energy. But really, a lot of times people say act as if, but they're not doing the shadow work along with the acting as if part, right? So if you're going to act as if, you better be willing to also do that shadow work. You better be also willing to do that inner work to transmute and alchemize those energies such that you can easily move into your inevitability, right? Your acorn, right? And to become that oak tree, right? So that's really what it's all about. So that means that you don't do things that are out of alignment with your soul. For example, right? Pirating music or stealing supplies from your office, right, is from a state of poverty consciousness, right? Let's say you wanting to attract more money, but you're doing things like, oh, I'm just going to take this person's music, or I'm just going to, take a few supplies from the office or whatever. That's from a lack-based consciousness, right? Because you don't believe that there's enough. You don't believe that you'll be able to have the resources to get what you want, right? Poverty consciousness. So making sure that your actions are in alignment with who you say you want to be, right? Would a person who has the amount of more money that you have be doing those things, right? Always being, another example would be always being on guard or having an attitude when you meet new people because you fear that they might take advantage of you, or there are no good men or women in the world. That's also from a fear-based consciousness, right? So being on guard or being skeptical or always sort of like waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of energy, you're going to manifest more of that energy, more of the same type of people who use and abuse you, because you're not in alignment with believing that there are good souls on the planet who would be in alignment with you creating more loving and healthy relationships in your life. You see what I'm saying? So it's making sure that your actions and your behaviors are also reflecting who you desire to be, right? So evaluating how you act and approach your life, whether or not your actions are in alignment with who you know yourself to truly be, is what will solidify and anchor these principles in your life. So move from a state of love, abundance, and well-being, and see how the universe reflects that back to you, right? Instead of moving from this place. I mean, think about it. How many people do you know, especially like, let's go to the money example. Let's go to a health example. How many people do you know who are healthy, fit, and vibrant and full of energy, are like sitting there complaining and moaning, bitching and moaning about, how bad the healthcare system is, or how hard it is to keep off weight, or how hard it is to be healthy, and like, they're not doing those things. They're actually embodying health and well-being. So it's not something that they talk about. They just embody it, right? It's a different energy altogether. But someone who is struggling in that area would always be thinking or talking about all the things that is going wrong in their life in that area. And so they're embodying the frequency of what they don't want, so much so that they're manifesting what they don't want, right? So, and they're doing things that don't act in accordance with who they want to be. So everything has to be in alignment. Another thing that's kind of divinely downloading to me in this moment is thinking about, like, when, going back to the food example, right? Let's say you're wanting to lose like 25 pounds or whatever, and one night you have a hankering, for some ice cream and stuff like that. The guilt and you eat the ice cream, right? The guilt and shame that you feel around eating the ice cream is actually way more detrimental than you actually eating the ice cream, right? So that guilt and shame that you might feel about eating that ice cream is actually going to pack on the pounds more than you actually eating the ice cream. I want you to really think about that. That's really neuroscience there for you. Like, that's the power of that mind-body connection, right? So when you start to recognize that your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions have so much power in your life that it's literally creating and crafting the life that you're experiencing, then you start to become that vibrational detective. You start to become that energetic snob. You start to become just that person who's just highly aware of your inner world, such that you know how powerful you are, because you're creating your reality moment to moment to moment. So if every day you're showing up and you're like, I'm going to embody health and well-being. I'm naturally healthy and well-being. I have so much energy. My body is in shape. Going back to the health example, I always do these certain things. This is just who I am. You're not going to be thinking or worried about if you decide to have a cookie one day, or, if you decide to eat that bowl of ice cream. You're not going to feel guilty about it, because healthy people know about balance, right? Like, if you have a craving for certain things, it doesn't mean that you're a horrible person or you're going to be fat or overweight for the rest of your life. No, it means enjoy your life, right? Feel what you're feeling, explore that, on an energetic level, and then you move on, right? So it's just really, you start to embody more of who you desire to be, right? So let's just recap the 4 steps that I shared. The first step is discover who you are and develop a belief system around that supports who you want to be on the planet. Second step is to recognize that your inner thoughts and feelings and emotions on a daily basis. Become a vibrational detective, right? And start to learn how to self-regulate your emotions and your thoughts. Step number 3 is to release attachment to how you think your manifestation should come to you, and also recognize the inevitability of success, love, abundance, well-being that's already written in your DNA. You just have to uncover all the muck that's preventing your blueprint from being enacted into your life. Step number 4 is to act in accordance with who you know you truly are, right? So once you know yourself, right, you have to become yourself, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword when people say, I don't need to change in order to become who I desire to be. It's kind of the chicken and egg type of thing. You actually have to become a different version of yourself to experience the full embodiment of yourself, right? But your true soul self, right, is already love, peace, abundance, well-being, all that stuff, right? So it's kind of like a chicken and egg type of thing, but it really is the same thing, right? Embodying who you truly are on an energetic level on a day-to-day basis is completely different than acting as if you're trying to be. You don't have to act as if when you know who you truly are. You don't have to worry about certain things when it's already done for you. You know what I mean? Kind of going, and I'll link another video where I talked about, the 7 things that I learned when healing myself. That was kind of that same energy. Like when it became a knowing in me that I was healed, I didn't have to act as if I was healed. I didn't have to worry, about when the healing was going to take place in my mind, in my emotions. It was already coherent. The healing had already taken place. So I didn't have to worry about how or when it was going to happen. To me, it was already done. You know what I mean? And so it's that same type of energy, So I hope this video has been helpful. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up. Let me know which of the principles you resonated most with in your own life at this present moment in the comments below. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me them in the chat while I'm still here. Also, let me go ahead and say, if you are looking to create more of this well-being, of this self-actualization, of this self-realization in your own life, then visit me at divineearthschool.com/call to book a complimentary breakthrough discovery call. I'll put it in the chat. And on this call, we will uncover what is your desires, what's holding you back from creating your desires, what limiting beliefs, what your specific limiting beliefs or thought forms or actions that are preventing you from creating a life you want, and then an actual action plan to actually help you to get to where you want to be, right? So if that's something that you are interested in working with a spiritual life coach on creating more of in your life, then visit me at divineearthschool.com/call to book your complimentary session. And I think that is all I wanted to share today. Let's see. Cool. Well, thank you for those of you who showed up live, and I will see you guys next when I see you. I definitely wanted to share this video. Hopefully it's been helpful. And as always, flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because you are divine. You are a divine being, and your soul knows exactly what you've come to explore and experience while on this planet. So remember, what you conceive is what you'll receive. What you expect is what you'll get. And however you feel is what will become real for you. So vibrate higher, and I will chat with you guys next time. Peace, love, and light.